Alright guys, once again me and the camera had a misunderstanding and the video got butchered for the intro of this video, but I'm gonna go ahead and drop it anyway. It's something I want to share with you guys. So got a new camera, try to get it installed, and here we go. All right, guys, this is gonna be my little mounting apparatus. Now, forgive my whole issue there. I was gonna mount this thing up here and make a cover and then put a cover over it, but I decided that since this is a laser enclosure and this thing is gonna be seen, I wanted it to look neat, I wanted it to look clean. So I have come up with a little box and made some modifications, put some screw holes in there and a place for this to sit and rest inside this box. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to basically be taking this little piece of wood here. It's going to sit over the top of those holes. And the camera, I've sized the holes in this box to where the camera can fit through it down into the enclosure. So that makes things a lot easier because this little base is basically going to serve as a means for me to mount the camera and then be able to snap a box over the top of it to cover it up and protect it. And the cool thing is my little box that I've built is made out of scrap that I had left over from some bandits. So if I decide that my camera needs to be replaced or if I need to take it out, then it's not going to cost me a whole lot of money to replace this thing. So give me just a second, let me go grab some hardware and we're going to secure this plate to the enclosure first. Then we'll be securing the camera to that. Then I'm going to be putting the panels on. One of the panels is going to have a little tiny hole for the wiring to come out and go over to the computer. So give me just a minute and let me go get my hardware. Just want to. All right, guys, the first step in this operation is going to be to make sure that my camera goes all the way into the enclosure, which is where it needs to go. And I'm just going to pull it out and in a couple times, make sure I got my two holes lined up the way they need to be. And I'm going to take some, these are little short 1/2 inch screws here. I don't need much to hold this thing in place. So I'm going to get some of those on standby. I will be putting a little dab of glue on this thing just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. This is going to be a portable setup, so I'm going to put me a little bit of wood glue on the bottom side of this thing. If I can get it to come out, it's not wanting to cooperate with me. I didn't clean it off real good last time I used it. So I'm put me just a little touch of wood glue there. And you might want to kind of spread it out a little bit just to make sure it doesn't get on your camera when you go to put your camera in. So I'm going to get that and line that up with the hole. I'm going to confirm that my camera goes in, making sure I got my up oriented where I want it. And as long as it goes in and sits in there, which it does, I'm good with that. I'm going to put my little screws here in to hold that guy down until the glue dries, but I'm not taking the screws out. I'm going to leave them in there. Like I said, these little guys aren't going to hold a lot, but at least I know it's not going to move once that glue dries, especially. All right, so I got them two guys on there. It's a little off of square with my little board there. Let me get that better. There we go, much better. It's that chronic OCD, guys. All right, so I took and hooked this up to the computer where I could tell which place was up. So it's gonna be sitting in here like this. I'm just doing a little quick fit check. And I was gonna use glue, but I really didn't want to get glue on the camera just as a precaution. So I have these, you know, little strips here. These are actually for my refrigerator magnets that I make. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I am going to strategically place them on the corners right here of where the camera goes. So I'm just going to mark those, mark my little camera outline to give myself a general idea so that I don't go sticking them where I don't need them. And looking at the height of the camera and the height of these little pieces, I'm probably going to end up having to use 2 of them to get it to go to the height that I want it. We'll just kind of sit these guys in here. It's got a bit of a raised edge around the camera. I'm going to have to take that into consideration here to try to keep from getting them too far in. So I'm going to back it on up a little bit, get more towards the outer edges of my box. These little things ain't going to stick that great if I keep pulling them off and putting them back. But that's the plan. I'm going to attempt this, and I'm just going to put this one over my little screw. It's not like I'm going to be taking those out anytime soon. And this stuff's pretty sticky. It's like a 3M adhesive, so it should hold it still. I mean, it's a camera. It's going to be protected from getting hit by the little box. So hopefully my little bit of redneck engineering here is going to work. So I'm just going to take that, slide that guy down in there, trying to make sure it's as square as I can get it. And yes, I'm going to have 2 of those to, well, I say I am. That one tried to hold it, but we're going to go ahead and put 2 layers of these guys. I thought I was at looking at the material, but I think I paid like $1 for this roll of adhesive chunks. I used to cut it with scissors, but man, if you buy it pre-cut, it's much easier when you put these little refrigerator magnets together. All right, so that's got us 2 layers, so that should be adequate enough to keep my camera still. I should contact it once I get it pressed down, but I'm trying to make sure it's square before I press it down into the sticky stuff, because this stuff is pretty sticky. All right, so I got the camera in there, and as you can see, I can move the board and the camera's not coming off. So I'm confident in that being permanent now. The one thing that I didn't do that I'm going to need to do is go ahead and put the wire on the back of that guy. And this wire's kind of tiny, just like what you would expect to find with most little small cameras. I took it off because I was trying to figure out how to do the design, and I didn't want to hang it on something. All right, so my box that I built, it's just big enough to basically sit over top of this thing. The one thing that I did do is I put in a little notch right there, so that when I push this side on there, it's going to hold that cable going this way, and hopefully won't allow it to get anywhere it doesn't need to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my little pieces on here. And this box is pretty tight, so I'm going to end up gluing it, but for demonstration purposes and until I get through testing and doing everything I'm going to do with this camera, I'm just doing a snap together box right now. So there you have it, guys. There's my little habitat for the camera, and that'll let me still let this up without worried about damaging my camera. This material's not real strong, but a small box like that, once I glue these joints, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue all the joints together, and basically this cover will come off in one piece like this. So if I need to take the cover off to, you know, replace the cable or whatever, this box will come off like that. And then when I get ready to go back together with it, it's just simply gonna snap back into place into the little base that I put on there. Or at least it should. Once I get it glued and it holds its shape, maybe it will. But there we go. I had one little corner wanting to hang. It's very tight tolerances on this one, guy, because I did plan on leaving it on there for a snap together for a little while. Then my next step, of course, because y'all know me, guys. I have a weakness for organization. I like organization. I like my stuff to be right. So I have these cool little guys here that I'm going to be using to channel my cable, and I'm going to move it back to the back right here. That was under my fingernail where that screw just went. And so I'm just going to put these little 1/2-inch wood screws in here, enough to hold my little clamps, so that I can have my wire ran the way that I want it to be ran. And like I said, this thing is very well maybe the public's first time ever seeing me or seeing somebody that does what I do. And I just want this thing to look nice. I want it to be organized, nice, but also at the same time, I want it to be functional. So that is the reason that I'm being so just overbearing, I guess you could say, with my organization. And I'm sorry I'm getting in the way of the camera, guys. If I had a cameraman, he could move it back out of the way, but I don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this cable here. I'm probably not gonna completely secure this cable all the way down, because I've still gotta add the hole for the power, and I'm waiting on my air evacuation system to get here. I do have one ordered from ComGrow, and I had emailed them and asked them if they'd be interested in contributing to my build. And I didn't hear back for a day or two. So I went ahead and ordered one. And as soon as it shipped, I got an email back from ComGrow that said they would contribute me an air filtration system for this build. So I'll actually have 2 of them. I don't know that I'm gonna need 2 on this build particularly, but I've got a need for another one that I can put it to work. So, or I can sell it to one of my buddies that needs one. Either way. All right, guys, I'm going to move over to the computer for the remainder of the video, because this isn't going to be very helpful unless I show you guys how to do this. I've got the Pro moved over, got my laptop moved over, got everything connected except for the air assist, which I'm not going to be doing any cutting. And we're fixing to finish this configuration and calibrate this camera and see how it works. This is a mystery to me too, guys. All right, guys, I'm in lightburn and I'm getting ready to set up this new camera. I've got 2 on here. That's going to be my inboard camera. This is going to be the other one. So first thing I want to do is I just want to see what it looks like, because like I said, this is the first time of actually seeing or using this camera. And I've got a couple little pieces of debris from where I drilled that hole that were kind of hanging in the way there. There we go. Alright, hey, good news is, guys, it does see the entire work base. So now all we've got to do is run through the calibration, and for that I'm going to need my little piece of paper. So I left it over there. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back with you guys, and I've got my little piece of paper. So we're fixing to go through here and calibrate the lens on this guy. And it's going to be that machine. I'm going to leave it on. I've never done a fisheye, so we're just going to leave it on fisheye. and see how this works, guys. All right, so first step, you got to have the pointed part of the dots to the front of the machine and put the paper in the middle. That doesn't look exactly straight, but I think it's good enough. All right, we're going to see if this works at all. Oh, wait a minute. I usually have trouble with that thing turned on. So let me turn that off. Oh, me. This isn't good. Uh-oh. Oh, not looking good, guys. Not looking good. All right, so let's back up here. Put it on standard. I've never done it with on fisheye, so maybe that's causing us a problem. Ah, and it was. Disregard the fisheye box, guys. Disregard the fisheye box. Just do full calibration, and just go with it. So 0.13, that's pretty good. All right, next step, we got to go to the bottom of the workspace. Make sure my bottom is my top and my top is my bottom. One thing that I will tell you is I can see the entire workspace at least. Whether this works or not, who knows? Uh-oh. Do I got too much lighting? Or did I move it too far? I can see it. Why can't you see it, guys? Let's move it up just a little. It may be my lighting. Yeah, I think it's going to be the lighting. Hang on, let's move this back down this way. I'm going to try a different color on the light. Let's see. I wonder what red will do. .29. Okay, we're going to go with red. That seems to be a little better than the white light from these LEDs I got. So now I'm going to be going top left, and I'm using the red on the LEDs. I don't know how well you can pick it up on the camera there, on the capture. All right. So now we're going to the right side. Did have to get out of my chair to do that. And I'm putting it all the way against the edge of the honeycomb to see if I could at least try to get the whole workspace. 0.32, not bad. All right, now to the top. Center that guy up. Next. Right, bottom right. Now this is almost a two-man job. Bottom left. It had me a little worried for a minute there, guys. I had never had a fisheye camera, so I didn't know if you had to use the fisheye approach or what. So, but it seems that it's going to work. All right, so next, top left corner. And I guess that's the problem with not rehearsing this stuff. I'm gonna move the laser head out of the way. I guess that's being off the cuff like I am. I guess that's one of the disadvantages. You never know whether you're setting yourself up for failure in a video or not. All right, top right. I'll move the laser head again. You don't want to leave that laser head sitting there. I learned that lesson early on, guys. It will cause you an issue. All right, so next. I would show you what it's doing over there, guys, but it won't let me show you the camera while this is running. So you're just going to have to look at me. I'm just kind of making sure I don't have a fire again. So I'm going to pause that for a second while it burns. Be right back. All right, guys, we got that part done. And while I was away, I also took the glued the little box, everything but where it goes onto the base. Got it glued in there. So got that burned now, so we got to go to the next part. The next part of this is basically you capture an image, and I did have to adjust my settings a little bit higher up, just in case you're trying to use cardboard. I wound up going with 100 millimeters per second and 40% power, and I got decent enough marks that I think I'll be able to see it. So just a little note for you guys. But there's an image. It did capture, so we're going to hit next. And then the object here is to zoom in and click these little numbers. See, there's where my little fire mishap occurred earlier. So I've got to go to 1, and you want to try to get as close to the center of this as you can. And I will tell you, you got to aim a little low right because the cursor is actually not exactly right. And zoom in as close as you can, but sometimes it's actually better to back up just a fuzz. You want these as close as you can get them. Like I said, this camera is never going to be, in my opinion, 100% all of the time. It is a very good tool. It is very effective most of the time, but this, no need to spend a week trying to line all this up. Now, I may change my mind with this camera. I don't know. I've never used this one. So once you do that, and it used to didn't have this little cool square that it draws. It'll draw a square between all the boxes, and you're good to go. So I'm going to hit next, and you're done. So now I should be able to update my overlay, and it look like a usable workspace. So, guys, let me swap back to white light, see if I can see in there any better. Not really. I could turn the auto bright off. Play with that a little bit, but we'll just leave it alone. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this out of here. So I don't want to cause a fire, and obviously cardboard means not getting along tonight. I'm going to grab a little scrap piece of wood over here, lay it in there, and I'm going to go ahead and pop a picture of that. And we're going to test and see exactly how accurate this guy turned out to be. I'm hoping that I'm not disappointed in this camera. Like I said, this is my first time seeing it, guys. So what I'm going to do the first time is I'm just going to do a 13.7 whatever. All right, let's make that square. So we'll do 12 by 12, just so if it looks egg-shaped, I can tell. So we're going to do a 12 by 12 circle. I've got that guy set up to run 104. Let's change that. We're going to do 100 and 100, which should give me a nice black finish on this pine. Let me close my lid because I left my glasses over there again. Alright. So I'm going to back this guy out, and I'm going to run it and see what happens. I don't have my air evacuation system in yet. Do you know what I didn't do, guys? I didn't focus it. See, all you guys that think I'm a pro, I'm not. I mess up regularly. Alright, let's try this again. Update overlay. Put it right there. Let's start it. You can actually watch what's going on over here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this burn. And once it burns and it returns to home, I'm going to update my overlay again. And if everything is aligned the way it should be, you shouldn't be able to see the burn for the image on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and update the overlay since it's burned. I can see a little bit of it hanging out right there. So got a little deviation there, but I mean that's not terrible. So let me move this guy out. I'm going to move it around, and I'm going to lay it on top of the burn that's already there, and run it again. Let's see if this thing, if the image starts getting elongated, then we know that there is a deviation. Now, we can adjust that here if needed, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, if you adjust it there, then you go to the bottom of the workspace, it's going to be different. Top of the workspace is going to be different. Cameras are great for sizing things to fit on your workpiece, and they do a pretty good job of getting everything lined up, but don't expect them to be 100%. So, as you can see, it's a little off. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run it one more time. I'm going to adjust the camera just to show you that it can be. If you're trying to engrave small things and you really want to use the camera to line everything up, you can get it really, really close. So I'm going to burn this one more time. We'll show you how to adjust the camera to make it to where it is perfectly lined up with that. But just a waiver here, guys. If we adjust the camera for this particular location in our workspace, don't think that it's going to be the same down here or over here. The way that this thing's set up, just because it's right here, it may not be 100% everywhere else. So I'm going to go ahead. You got your X shift, and so we're going to move that 2 clicks maybe. All right, then you got your Y shift. Wrong way. All right, so now as you can see, the dot is behind the burn. So if I move the dot now to a different location, and I run it, and staying relatively close to where we just calibrated it at. So I'm going to leave it right there. You'll notice it's going to be a lot more precise, but now that's not going to necessarily be true all over the workspace. Hey, the good news is, guys, the fisheye camera does work with this short enclosure. And I'm to be honest with you, the results are comparable to anything else I've seen. So there's the I've updated the overlay, and now you can see it's barely peeking out from underneath my circle. And keep in mind, guys, this is only a 12mm circle. So it's not a very big circle. So any kind of hangout right here is going to look like it was way off. But there again, see, I moved the camera, and now you kind of got to adjust to get. So I'm going to get it back as close as I can. And see there, the X is back on 0 now. So you can play whack-a-mole with this thing if you want, if you're that concerned about it. But personally, guys, this thing is definitely within a 1.5 millimeters accurate, and I'm going to frame regardless. I just use this for placement, making sure my graphic, how big it is, kind of doing mock-up type looks. And so if I can get, less than 2 millimeters deviation out of it, I'm good with that. So you got just a little peak right there. And if I go over here and turn this cut off, you'll see it's just barely down into the left of where it should be. And there again, I adjusted earlier. So if I move the adjustment back, it's actually a little, it's almost the same amount off the other way now. So I'm good with that, guys. I mean, look at the workspace, look at the size of that circle. And you have to zoom in to be able to tell that it missed. So calling that a success, because in the event that, I definitely need a evacuation system in the 20 watt. That should be here this week, guys. This time is really showing some smoke. But see, hang on, let me find my camera. There's my little circles. And, I mean, that's tiny. So that little bit of deviation, I can live with that. That's not
I don't try to do multiple passes on an engrave with the camera. That's not what it's made for, in my opinion, and that's not what I do with it. So, but anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. I will share with you the camera. Here's the box. I will put a link in the description if you're one of those guys that because here's what I have found out. I've been wanting to put me a camera in my little Comgrow enclosure that I've got, and the Comgrow enclosure is about the same height as this guy. So at least now I know that I can have an enclosure, and this enclosure. Let me go ahead and measure this before everybody starts asking me. All right, from the honeycomb to the lens of the camera is right at 12 inches, a little less than 12 inches. So you're looking at like 11 3/4 inches from the honeycomb to the camera lens. Now, if I didn't have the honeycomb, I'd get another inch or two, but I mean, that's 11 inches, guys. I know a lot of folks, I've heard arguments about how far the camera has to be, but to me, that's awesome. So give me a minute, I'm going to swap back over to the camera because this little bubble head over here is really annoying me.
All right, guys, that concludes our test of the new camera. Like I said, I got to get the ventilation system installed, and I got to do a little bit more work with my wiring and some organization. I've got a uninterrupted power supply that's going to be going up underneath the machine. I'm going to make some metal brackets to mount that against the wall, and that's going to be the battery backup for everything on the table. It's also going to serve as surge protection from the generator, just in case it has a malfunction. It won't burn up, a couple $1,000s worth of equipment with it. I do have the ventilation system from Comgrow coming. I haven't figured out if I'm going to vent it through the bottom of the table like I have in my original enclosure, or if I'm just going to go with a side spout. And one reason why I may go with a side spout is basically just going to be so that people who come out and see the enclosure, see the laser operating, can get a better understanding of what all goes into making one of these enclosures and using it, and all the different dynamics. Also, the Comgrow has a variable speed adjustment with a little display. So I'm gonna consider mounting it somewhere outside, maybe even coming up with a little shelf up here somewhere to mount the control unit on and have the tube come in. But I've got to get my hands on that thing to be able to put it where I want to look at putting it and figure that out. But the camera, like I said, this camera I got it off Amazon, and I don't recall exactly what the price was, but it's comparable to the last camera that I had, and it's cheaper than many of the webcams that are out there. The Logitech webcams, they work pretty well. They are a little more expensive. They do have their own enclosure, so to speak, but luckily with a little bit of engineering and a laser, I was able to construct my own little enclosure, and I put a rubber band on it until the glue dries, and then once the glue dries, I'll take the rubber band off. But look in the description for the link to the camera if you're interested in getting one. This is a setup process. You saw you saw everything I saw out of the thing, guys. So as always, use your own judgment. I mean, I can't speak to long-term use of this camera at all because y'all saw me from the time I unboxed it to the time I got it installed, but it did work. It did calibrate. There are some kind of finicky things that you have to do in the calibration process to make sure it works. And I'm getting around 2mm accuracy on a 10mm target. So I'm gonna call that a win. But anyway, I'm gonna break everything down and go in the house for tonight. But if you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe. I've got my eye set on 5,000 subscribers now. And I'm a goal-oriented kind of guy. So if you could help me out with that, if you hadn't already, mash that subscribe button, and it'll make my day. So I appreciate you. And as always, be careful and have a good day.